Friends, village, what is up? It is your boy, your friend Damien Howard here with another episode of Village Talks. And uniquely today, I get the opportunity to interview and sit with a person that I consider a friend. And I believe that these spaces, for me as a host and facilitator, are always uniquely rich when I'm able to invite in folks that I already know, but in doing these episodes, I get to know better and learn more about who they are, what they're doing, what's exciting them uniquely in this season. So, Village, namely folks who care about young people and are committed to the concept of us coming together for the nurture and caregiving of young people. Hey, buckle your seatbelts because I promise you all, you're in for a ride as you learn of my friend Margot and the amazing experience that she has, and uniquely some of the things that she's doing right now to promote innovation, to really kind of spark that imagination that a lot of us have in us, but need somebody to kind of co-journey with us and come alongside for us to live into the truth and the fullness of what can be, right? If we kind of flex some of our entrepreneurial muscle and our muscle of innovation. So with that, Margot, jump in there and introduce yourself, please.
Awesome. Hey, Damien. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so honored you invited me to a village talk. I've spent a lot of time just thinking about what village means to me in preparation for our conversation. So I'm really excited to explore that with you today. I define myself as a social impact entrepreneur. I've been working for a couple decades now, kind of at the intersection of education, creativity, innovation. I'm glad you used the word imagination because I think that's one of our distinctly human qualities that are feel more important than ever right now.
Hmm.
Um, Most recently, I've been leaning into the sense of community, especially here in Chicago, tapping into our great creator and educator ecosystem here to really show up for people and build connections as a coach and mentor after having spent a couple years or a couple decades launching my own ventures in the social emotional learning and ed tech and arts space, and then going on to be a leader at a global nonprofit and then an AI enabled mental health startup. So those are some of the highlights of my journey. It just all feels lately like it's really all just about showing up for your community, AKA your village.
That's what's up. So one thing that you emphasized a moment ago as you were giving your own bio was that you consider yourself to be a social impact entrepreneur. I would love if you would just take a moment, excuse me, for the sake of our viewing audience, to really break that down. What does that mean? And uniquely, how do social impact entrepreneurs show up? And I want to say a little bit more about why I'm asking this question. I don't know why I haven't watched it recently, but for a while, my wife and I will watch this show, Pop the Balloon. It's kind of this love show where it's a bunch of guys or a bunch of girls are given a balloon, and a contestant comes out and they get to pop the balloon for the ones they don't want, and keep your balloon if I would love to take you on a date. But anyway, almost every person that comes out, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. And then it got to the point where the host is like, okay, what does that mean? So in this moment, particularly since you gave the coffee caveat of a social impact entrepreneur, what does that
Sure.
mean?
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, we can pick apart both sides of that. Like, what's the social impact side mean? What's the entrepreneur side mean? Um, for me, I think that a social impact entrepreneur is a person who aligns purpose and passion, and kind of uses like a framework or benchmarks of how is what I do impacting the greater good, and connecting the day to day of their work or the piece of the work that satisfies something for themselves to something that also helps on a larger context.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. One of the kind of theologians that I would follow at different junctures in my own lived experience would say that anytime when there is a high level of frustration, there's probably some brokenness with your systems. And one of the things that I genuinely appreciate about you is your willingness to take a systematic approach to however you show up to make sure that there is a level of preparedness. Like even before this episode, I told you I feel really chill and I feel really calm about this episode because I know you to be a person that's going to do your homework, that's going to watch previous segments, that's going to think about the questions that I'm asking you. So, with that, I just really would love for you to speak into our village here and talk about the importance of being prepared, of, to your point, you talked about kind of like, that social impact entrepreneur follows a system or some type of guiding principles in their journey. And again, I think part of that comes from how you show up just in general. And I appreciate that. So I guess I'm trying to lay it up for you to slam dunk with your rhetoric as far as helping us to understand that importance of that preparedness of following systems. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think that something that I've been praised for a lot throughout my life, I guess, is this really great ability, like really great balance between kind of big picture and details.
Mm,
And I think that when I think about like what I try to accomplish as a social impact entrepreneur, that's very much about big picture, right? How are those little actions I'm taking every day connecting to a greater purpose?
mm,
And I think maybe the fact that I do always take time to be thoughtful and prepare for whatever it is I'm going to be spending time on. I think part of that is trying to align these moments, something like coming on this podcast to you, to my greater purpose, right? So
mm.
I have to take that time to reflect and think intentionally about like, okay, how am I going to show up for Damien today? And if my greater purpose right now is to sort of share my life experiences as an entrepreneur with other entrepreneurs, um, how can I make sure that how I show up for the types of questions that Damien might ask me kind of are in alignment?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, I don't want
No,
to
it
be
makes so
just
much
random.
sense. It makes so much sense. One
Yeah.
of the things that I'm doing right now, and it looks really crazy if I were to share my screen and show y'all right now, is like this color coding system on my calendar, which is just one subtle way that I am assessing, similar to what you said, how am I showing up or assessing if I'm actually spending my time doing those things that are purpose aligned, revenue generation aligned. Um, Give us your top one or two things that you do to assess if you are showing up in a way that's aligned with your purpose.
Yeah. Well, I try to about once a year, I try to make some space to just really reflect on what are my core values right
Mm,
now. And they don't change that much from year to year, but I find like just going back and regrounding myself, um, and then thinking about how do these values map to different aspects of my well-being. So like
mm,
to be a whole person, right? Like we need to um, have uh, family and friends. We need to have good health. We need to have satisfaction from our work or intellectual life. And so making sure that there like aren't any gaps in like what I'm doing and how they serve. So I guess then I guess as I then move through life, I think that knowing what my values are like
mm.
helps me decide where to spend my time and like especially like I try to identify gaps and then be intentional about doing things to fill those gaps. For example, if I feel like a value to me is spending time with family and friends, but I
Yeah.
notice that that's not really happening as much as I want or need, then I need to make space in my schedule for that. And
Yeah.
that means I have to maybe let go of something else that I was planning to do. So
Yeah,
I think I really use my values as this almost assessment tool.
let's talk about that letting go though, because I think sometimes, at least for me, and I suspect that others can resonate with this, it's not. Well, I'll say it this way. Sometimes the hardest thing is saying no to those meetings or those opportunities or those things that are not in alignment. So, just
Yeah.
anything that you can offer us to help us to be a little bit more at ease when it comes to saying no with things that are not aligned.
Yeah. So I actually just last week I attended this great workshop. I'm part of the Chicago Innovation Women's Mentoring Co-op,
Okay.
and there was a lovely speaker who was talking about prioritization and
Mm.
basically said, make your list, and then after the top 4 or 5 things, draw a line and say, like, these are the things that I can get done, and these are the things that, like, I'm okay with letting go of. So I think for everybody, it might just be really helpful to decide where you draw that line,
Mm.
and and then and then give yourself permission to let go of those things that are below the line.
That is so powerful what you're saying because I even think sometimes uh, relationships, romantic relationships that we get into, and if you don't have a line, you'll find yourself compromising in so many different areas, making yourself susceptible to so much harm, even if it's just psychological, mental harm. That's still a level of harm.
Yeah.
Whereas when you know what your line is and anything below that line, you're going to absolutely positively not let into your head space or your physical space. I just think that that's a powerful key practice for all of us. So I really appreciate you, Margot, for bringing that out. Now, to transition this conversation and advance it, I know the invitation that I gave you was for you to come to be a part of a village talk, right? So I'm just curious, what does, or excuse me, why does that concept of village resonate with you personally?
Yeah, well, again, I think I had recently read an article that actually was exploring the topic of village in a really different way from what I normally
Hmm.
think about as village. And it was kind of talking about, like, we have, like, it was talking about technology's influence on our human relationships as well, and whether or not technology is helping or can help or hurt our relationships. And it really organized it with this framework of, like, in the center, we have our closest family and friends. And then on the outer ring, we have, like, the kind of our global tribe, like basically the people that the algorithm's going to connect us to because of what we're reading, what we're searching on, whatever, whatever. But in the middle rung is the village. And the village is our community, the people we live and move among, but they are not necessarily in the tribe or in our inner circle.
Mm,
And therefore, they actually are the ones that where we are being forced to interact with people of a lot more diversity potentially,
mm,
like diverse, my neighbors and people I interact with as I move around the city of Chicago. I'm going to encounter all different types of people, whether it's age diversity, race diversity, any whatever it is. But that's kind of that's the village, and I think the the point that this article was making is technology in some ways can help us with that inner circle, especially like if we live far away. Like my parents live in Ohio, so technology is a way we stay closer together, right? So it helps our relationship. And then obviously that global tribe is kind of how you find like-minded people, whatever. But in the village, is it feels like that's where it's most important to actually show up and actually form the relationship.
mm,
And so I've actually had a mantra in 2026. My personal mantra has been show up.
mm.
And I think I just maybe felt last year a little disconnected from my village. And I know that some of my most fulfilling things that have happened in my life are from times when I've really leaned into being an active voice in the village. And so I've been trying to get back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wonder, as you are talking about showing up for you, is there also an emphasis in like the in-person showing up or not necessarily?
Yeah, but not, I don't define it strictly as it
Yeah.
has to like that necessarily means being in person. I think there is something magical about sort of embodied in-person connection and experience, and I do try to make time and space for that because it's very easy nowadays to like completely neglect that. So when it's feasible, I do try to take advantage of those opportunities. But I think showing up is really more of a mindset, right? It's about
Yeah.
being present and being, like I said, willing to engage with people who maybe are not of that don't look exactly like you or think exactly like you, or people that have different viewpoints, um, so that we can learn to be like better at perspective taking, which is what I believe to be the number one most important social emotional learning skill.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's I I remember many lessons having conversations and even facilitating conversations about perspective taking. And I'm sure if we go down that rabbit trail, we could be talking about that for 30 minutes. But I really want to like hone in even more on just this concept of village. I think one of the things that is a premise of this podcast is that when the village is activated, amazing things can happen for young people and families. So, if I heard correctly, with your 2 decades of experience as an educator or education adjacent endeavors, can you speak of like unique instances? And right now, like I'm looking for some storytelling time, right? Some unique instances whereby you have seen the village activated in support of young people and or their families.
Yeah. Oh, so many instances, but I have to always go back to the program that really brought me into social impact entrepreneurship, which
Mm,
was founding the Dancing with Class program in Chicago Public Schools, which I'm proud to say is still going strong,
mm,
2 decades later. I founded it in 2006. Um, and it's a program that uses dance as a medium to help kids and adults come together in shared space, to basically build relationships through structured movement activities and dance and music. Um, and where I really saw the village coming into play in that program was, we did these big dance-off events at the Chicago Cultural Center that brought families in, brought schools from all different neighborhoods of the city. So we'd have North Side, South Side, West Side kids, all who had gone through this common experience at school, but now they're coming into this shared space together, surrounded by parents, families, friends, elders, youngers, all of the people, cheering them on, lifting them up. And when the kids would go back to school, the principals and so forth would remark how like parents would come in the office and see like the little trophy they took home and be like, look what we did. And it was all, we intentionally designed the program in the sense of it was a team effort, and it was like representing your team and your community, but also learning to respect the kids from all over the city.
yeah.
So I don't know, like the magic of what we did with those culminating events at that program was like, to me, a masterclass in village building.
So I know you did a little bit of this earlier, but I really want our audience to be able to get a respect for what it is that you're doing right now. So we had an opportunity to go back through your words and in our minds, I see you in 2006, not only supporting the development of young people through dance and that type of expression with music, but using this culminating moment to bring their elders together, to bring their little nieces, nephews, or siblings, and just an amazing. We can all see it, right? Especially those of us who have had, like me, a daughter who was in dance, or now she does travel volleyball. So I know uniquely kind of a bit of what it is that you're saying there. But right now, all of your experience in hand, like how are you leveraging that for how you're showing up right now in this stage of your professional life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm really engaging with a lot of folks who are in transitional phases in their life
Mm,
right now, sort of figuring out whether they're building a new venture or they're considering a career change. I'm doing a lot of coaching, and um, I think that uh, what I'm bringing to the equation for a lot of people is just this giving them frameworks to think about how like that values alignment. And if I think a common thread around people who tend to want to work with me would
mm.
be this idea of social impact. I'm making a change because I think there's something more in me. I have more to do in this world, but I need to make some changes to get there. And I think I've done that over and over in my own life. And so I think yeah, I think that at the moment, I'm more about empowering other people and lifting them up so that they can achieve that greater impact.
Yeah, that seems to make a lot of sense. I know that I'm definitely one person who has valued an opportunity to just sit with you. I'm going to tell y'all right now, for any and everybody who's going to take Margot up on her offer to consult, and she has a free consultation that we're going to learn about towards the end of this. But if you're going to take her up on that offer, you better be prepared to be asked all of those questions that Simon Sinek says that are necessary in order for us to like crack the nut and get to the depth of the why. Like Margot, when I would sit with you and you would just lean in and listen so intently as it pertains to where I've been at different stages of my journey, just your level of inquisition to try to get to what it is I have going on has been so rewarding and fruitful. And I know we have future sessions to come, and I'm excited for it. So, focusing on where you are right now at this stage of your journey,
Mhm.
if you had a magic wand, which is in fact what you're getting at this stage of the segment, and you get to wield that wand in whatever way, shape, or form that you want to in order to impact positive change for your business or for your city or for the world, might I say. In this moment, how do you want to use your magic wand?
I think finding ways to strengthen networks and kind of provide the connective tissue for really like these like intergenerational collaboration is something that feels really important
Mm,
to me right now that I feel called to do over and over again. You know, yeah, I think just anything where we can take people out of isolation. I mean, I think I'm the isolation and loneliness epidemic is
mm.
for real. And I fear it's getting worse, not better. And so if I can do anything to help fight against that and find ways to help people see how connecting with others and leaning into villages and communities,
Mhm.
and not trying to just do everything in isolation, whether that means bringing youth voices into the development of a product or program you're working on, or whether it means just connecting, um, you know, people from different industries to each other so that they can learn from one another and benefit in that way. So, whatever kind of network building that I can do to help keep us connected as humans.
Yeah, it's funny that you call isolationism, an epidemic. And recently, I was taking part in a mastermind group that I've been a part of for 13 years, and we were talking about the anxiety epidemic. And I just Googled it as we were talking, like, that's really a thing, for real, for real. And I just wonder if those contemporaneous situations might go hand in hand. Because what I have come to realize is when I am trying to navigate through business challenges, relational challenges, um, just heart issue challenges. I am more like I'm quicker to be able to overcome those things when I am vulnerable enough to invite somebody else into what it is I'm going through and have them to help me navigate through it. So it's interesting that you talk about isolationism. I was just talking about anxiety, right? And if we don't have people in our corner helping us navigate life, I think that that anxiety is an inevitable outcome, that I'm just going to be feeling anxious and unsure about myself, unsure about what it is I'm doing. And it just speaks again to exactly what it is you're saying, which is namely the importance of that village of caregivers and an openness that we need to have to keep those folks around us. So,
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
like right now it's like really we have to make it a proactive choice
Mm,
to make those connections. It's not just happening. I feel like back in the old days, it just happened because technology, right?
mm,
And now I'm just worried that people are going to become less and less willing to be vulnerable and take those risks to connect, because oh, I could just ask AI what to do instead of asking
mm.
for advice from somebody who maybe has a different perspective from mine. And sure, um, you can do that, and you might end up feeling really lonely.
That's interesting. To even hear research, or not necessarily research, but stories of folks leveraging AI and being afforded to kind of like an opportunity to get some counsel on even like executing suicidal ideations and things like that. I'm just like, wow, this thing is really getting crazy as far as if you don't have that village and if you're don't have like a soundness of who you are, those values that you
Yeah.
spoke of earlier, that man, if you're just leaning to technology to be your village, that might not necessarily be the best thing. So,
Yeah.
with this path that we're on right now, I'm just curious. Um, to just really hear your thoughts and to hear you speak to what you believe. And I'm going to say the number one, the top pressing issue that young people are faced with in 2026. What would you say that would be?
Well, kind of on the theme we've been on, I think it is, you know, loneliness, self-isolation,
Mm,
and as a result, something I've been thinking about a lot most recently is the loss of a willingness to be vulnerable and take risks.
mm,
I think is like such an important uh, developmental thing that in I think technology is like almost removing the confidence to make a decision for yourself or think like come up with your own solution.
mm.
And so, what's that going to do for people when it comes to risk taking and putting themselves out there? Uh, yeah, so I've been
You
thinking
know,
about
that's
that a lot.
that's interesting. And I'm just going to set this up for you because after I finish talking, I want you to kind of help us with some solutions. What do you think could support that? But I want to say this really quickly. Oh man, I just think of, I'm going to say this by way of an example that I just literally witnessed when I went to this AI in education convening that Leap Innovations is putting on their most recent kind of meeting that they had.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that they had was a student panel. And on that student panel, there were four students who represent as minority students who were on the panel, and they were just so free and they were just so vulnerable. They were so articulate, so confident in everything that they were saying. And it struck me that kids and young people are uniquely afforded an opportunity, whereas before all of the cares and woes and worries of the world, and they think they have to bear it all right now, but they just don't know. Just keep living, kids. But you know what I mean? Like all of the 401k and retirement stuff and all of the I gotta sustain this job so I can keep a roof over everybody's head and all of these things, the things that they don't even have to think about right now. Before that stuff comes, and this is the time for them to be risk takers, for them to be vulnerable, for them to be uniquely courageous. I even think of the civil rights movement, college students who were saying, I am willing to sit at this counter and be hit in the back of my head because I believe that there's a greater good that's going to be enacted because of my sacrifice right now. And to
Right.
your point, what is this world, what is our culture potentially going to lose if that risk taking and confidence that you're speaking of is taken away? So let's be solutions oriented. What do we need to
Yeah.
do?
Well, yeah, and again, I'm not anti-technology at all, but I do think we need to be intentional and thoughtful about how we're integrating it and making sure we're not allowing it to replace those
Mm,
developmental milestones of like thinking of a solution all of my own, putting myself out there, being vulnerable, taking a risk. Um, and so I think finding ways to make sure we're connecting or interweaving the technology with the village or with those relationships, and making sure that both that people of all ages are being thoughtful
mm.
and engaging in critical conversations around how the role that we do and like being intentional around the role that we do or don't want technology to play in any given context.
Yeah, no, greatly appreciate it. Um, at this particular stage of your own personal journey, talk to us a little bit about what you're most excited about right now. And I know you kind of alluded a moment ago to the fact that there are so many folks that you're finding in transition, maybe even leaving the teacher or administrator, school administrator profession. And now they're trying to like think about what the next thing is. And I can only imagine, Margot, just being able to walk alongside those folks, be a co-sojourner, if you will, with them, and even a guide. Just in my mind's eye, I see that as something that would even give me a whole bunch of life. So I don't necessarily know if it's that or something else, but help us to understand like what is that thing that you're waking up the top of the morning every day, like, oh, I get to do this and I'm excited about it.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what I'm excited about is helping people stay intentional about how relationships and human connection are going to show up and stay essential to their work.
Mm,
So I guess in terms of like my coaching practice and things like that, I think some of the things I enjoy the most are being able to connect people, being able to help people make that breakthrough of whatever, like, oh, now I feel clear, I feel aligned to my values, and I feel connected to a village that can
mm.
help me move forward. And if I can help lots of other people make those connections, I feel like I'm making those connections for myself as well.
You know, this is so powerful, and I'm excited for you to see and read whatever reactions you get to this because I'm seeing you all over for the first time almost. We've had so many different conversations. As I said at the beginning of this, you're a friend, but I had to hear it 5 times in this episode alone for it to click in my own mind. And I think it's going to click for so many people because we've already seen the manifestation of how genuinely committed you are as a connector, as a resource sharer, as an impeccable communicator. But it's something about how you have been so stubbornly committed to saying, presenting yourself in that way in this segment that it just, whoa, like it overwhelmed me. Like how powerful that thing has clicked in my mind that this is who Margot is, right? And it really, truly is a secret sauce. And I think it hit me so profoundly because I have no better way to say it. I saw dollar signs attached to it, right? Like those of us who often could feel isolated, often feel disconnected, often feel like, man, I live in America with such like it's so plentiful, at least we would think the resources that are out there for starters, for innovators, for social entrepreneurial individuals. but I don't feel like any of it is landing with me, right? And if you can have somebody who can help you to see past your limiting beliefs and start to not only actualize resources, but actualize a village that's going
Mhm.
to journey with you, that's a real powerful business model. So again, thank you for helping me to see you.
Yeah, well, I want to thank, I mean, first of all, I think that humans in general are evolving people, right? So, I mean, I will thank you. I'll throw the thank you right back to you for creating Village Talks, inviting me on Village Talks, and prompting me to really think about, well, what does village actually mean to me?
Mm,
Because it was that thought exercise, I think, that helped. I mean, I've I've thought about it before, but not so intentionally to try to use it as a framework to connect all the dots with everything
mm.
I'm doing and everything I have done and everything I have yet to do. So thank you for giving me that framework.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Gratitude all around. That's what we do in this space. Good vibes, good energy. That's what happens when you get great people. So listen, Margot, we are at a point in this segment whereby I really want you to be able to share how do we get in contact with you. Once more, I really want to tee it up for you to just kind of talk to us about those consultation sessions that
Sure.
folks can get access to. But also just whatever parting words, whatever final piece of wisdom, of instruction, of affirmation, whatever it is that you want to give in this final space, the floor is yours, Margot.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have folks just the simple act of you can look me up and reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to make connections there. If people want to really dig in and learn more about what I'm up to and the services I'm offering to folks in and around the social impact and education space, both in the form of business and career coaching. I have a website. It is my name with a hyphen. So it's Margot with a T dash Toppen.com. That's my homepage where you can find out about all my consulting work and what I'm up to. I have a newsletter folks can follow. So that's all the good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Good stuff indeed. Well, Margot, this was an amazing segment as I knew it would be on the front end. I have really been trying to do a better job as of late to just be mindful about when we show up to this space. Yes, it's going to be organic. Yes, it's going to be full of just us being able to share stories as it pertains to what we've experienced. But at the end of the day, how are people going to leave this 20, 30-minute segment better than when they showed up, right? And I think that you gave us some tremendous nuggets, some amazing reminders to help us as individuals, individuals committed to this concept of village, even individuals even further committed to the development of young people, right? To just kind of have some more tools to put in our toolbox to support us and help us to thrive so that then we can be further equipped to help young people thrive. So, Margot, just kudos to you. I salute you and the work that you're doing. I look forward to this next 30 minutes offline that you and I are going to spend together so you can kind of help get me in shape. You understand? I'm out of shape. I need you to mentally get me in shape so we can get this going. And everyone, please take advantage of those consultation hours. If there is a free opportunity for you to link up with Margot and just start to get like some crystallization of what it is you're trying to do, why wouldn't you want to take that opportunity? So, hey, this is our latest episode of Village Talks. I know it was amazing to you as it was amazing to me, and we will see you all next time. Peace out.